Good morning, everyone. Well, good day, everyone, whatever time of day it is for you. I know there are people from many different time zones with us. It's very early in the morning here, so if you see us drinking coffee, that's the reason. I am Cheryl Heller, and I'm the chair of Design for Social Innovation. And we're going to give you an overview of the program. And we also have Aaron Hersey here, who's our Director of Operation. We have Wei, who is from Colombia, Bogota, Colombia, who's going to speak in Spanish. And we have Sebastian, who's from Beijing, and he's going to speak in Mandarin. I'm kidding. No. I wanted to wake them up. So welcome, and we're very glad that you could join us. This program is a first in many different ways. This is the first year of the program, so Wei and Sebastian are part of the very first cohort. It's the first MFA degree in Design for Social Innovation. So it's the first real MFA program for designers who want to work in social innovation. And it's also, I'm sorry, I'm hitting the wrong button. It's also unusual because of all of the different disciplines and cultures and issues that it aggregates. In the world of social innovation, what's happening is that there's enormous growing interest in many fronts. So the number of nonprofit organizations who are working to solve the problems we face is growing rapidly. The number of foundations, both the big foundations that we all know and also a lot of private foundations, are shifting their work to focus on social innovation and to align around the big issues. There are accelerators, programs that have fellows programs or that are working to help entrepreneurs who are working in social innovation to further their initiatives are springing up everywhere. Funders who used to be venture capitalists are now impact investors. So the world that we work in and live in of social innovation has become what Paul Hawkins called the largest movement on earth. So we're at a really interesting point where lots of forces are aligning to try to work together. And what we saw is that there wasn't a way for designers to participate in this in a really meaningful way. So traditionally, designers are seen as, designing websites or making logos, but we think design is actually potentially a much greater force in leading these changes. We were written up by Fast Company last year, and they called us an MFA degree for designers who want to change the world. And we love that, and we use it a lot because it's wonderful. And there's two things we need to clarify. One is that the program is not only for designers. It's for people who want to learn to use design. It's for people who are creative and people who have a visual sense, but we have people who have not come from the world of design. And the second thing is an important one, because there is this common expression called, I want to change the world. And in fact, the most important thing that we can recognize is that the world is really just fine. Nature was doing fine before we interfered. And that it's humans, and it's our behavior, and it's the way we see things, and it's the way we appreciate other issues and the impact we have that has to change. And so we work on ourselves, which of course is harder than trying to change someone else. And we intentionally have created this program to integrate some things that we think are really important. Social innovation, obviously, and I just talked about that. Design is our passion. We define it in a different way, but that's clearly part of it. And also enterprise, because one of our other convictions is that lives spent in social innovation and lives spent trying to help other people need to be sustainable. So to shift business, even in nonprofit organizations, to make them financially sustainable, is absolutely a big part of what we need to do, and that's part of what we can think about designing. Our students come from 11 countries and represent many, many different cultures in the world. Some people have showed up in New York for the very first time when they came to the program, and other people came from across the river in Brooklyn. But it's been a wonderful experience for everyone to gain the perspective of other cultures and other ways of seeing things. So the group has become quite close over the course of this first semester. Our faculty are all professionals. We don't have any tenured faculty whose full-time job it is to teach. Everyone has a very exceptional and successful career. We have people who are visualization designers, data visualization designers at the New York Times lab. One of our faculty was instrumental in developing the innovation lab at the Mayo Clinic. We have transmedia designers, we have game designers, we have writers and anthropologists and ethics teachers, entrepreneurs who are out in the world working in these areas. So that again is a really interesting and diverse mix. And we have a very interesting network of faculty at large who are people who advise us and who lecture when they can and when they're here. And these include Paul Pollack, who is an extraordinary pioneer in social innovation. He's brought probably 20 million people out of poverty. He wrote a book called Out of Poverty. Kat Denoli has run nonprofit organizations all over the world. Jake Porway founded a really exciting new enterprise called DataKind. He's a DataKind scientist who's developing a community of the best data scientists in the world to tackle these problems. Hayat Sindhi is a really extraordinary scientist who has developed breakthrough ways of testing out in the field in rural areas, but she's also started an institute for entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs in the Middle East to help accelerate them and fund them and get them started. And then we have an equally wonderful board of advisors that includes Jeffrey Hollander and Kevin Starr, who's the director of the Malago Foundation, Warren Muir, who is the executive director of the Earth and Life Sciences at the National Academies, Michael Murphy, who's the founder of Mass Design, and Eric Herzman, who founded Ushahidi. So it goes on, and one of the things that makes the program remarkable is that our colleagues and our advisors are the people who are actually leading the most exciting change that's happening in the world. So it's a great benefit to us and our students. So we look at systems design and change design. What are the models that people are using to shift behavior? What's working and what's not? What's being done? Social movement design. Li Shanhong, who is one of the chief strategists at Purpose.com, is teaching a class on designing change through social media. Communication design, which is key to a lot of this. We look at natural systems and how they impact the work we do, because all of this is useless unless we think about creating a future that lives within the resources that nature provides. And then mapping and modeling and courses on how you take ideas and turn them into real initiatives. And I'm trying not to sneeze if I start making faces. We believe that design has unique potential to really be a powerful force in solving some of these problems, not because we have all the answers, but because design is a method for aligning people around a shared vision, for helping them to see current reality as it is, for coming up with creative solutions, and for implementing things. So we think that design can be at the center of a lot of other things that are going on, and to help align projects that are already in the works, because there are so many people working in similar ways, so many ideas, and they tend to be working on their own. So what we need is to bring more of these organizations and more of these ideas and more people together and develop a process for moving them forward. We have a definition of design that is very different from the traditional one. And for us, design is a process for seeing unconnected things in new relationships to each other, for visualizing a desired end state that can be shared, for getting from A to B when you're not quite sure what B is. At its best, design is the creative expression of ideas that inspire new thinking and behavior, new ways of participating. I think what everyone who is awake in the world today, and everyone who reads the news, and everyone who looks around, sees all the problems that we have ahead of us. And we all have a desire to do something about it, and we all have a desire for a life of purpose and a life of meaning. And most people start out thinking about how you go about that. And how you go about it is an important part of it, but in fact, we believe that who you are is actually more important. And we begin by thinking about what are the resources that people personally need to have, who do you need to be, how do you understand how to develop relationships with people, develop the kinds of relationships that you need to succeed, relationships with the people that you're trying to help, relationships with partners. And so one of the key areas that we focus on is sort of personal resources, and as I said, who you need to be. One of the quotes that inspires us is by Bucky Fuller. And if any of you don't know Bucky Fuller, I recommend spending some time looking him up and seeing what he did. But at a point in his life when he was really down and out, and just at the bottom, having failed at things that he thought were important, he asked himself a question that inspired the work that came after, which was world-changing in terms of new thinking. He said, if the success or failure of this planet and of human beings depended on how I am and what I do, how would I be? What would I do? We look at design as a much broader set of steps and disciplines and skills than what is traditionally considered. We think design thinking is a part of it, but by no means the whole part. And so we see one of the aspects of design and one of the contributions an ability to help multiple people see the same thing. So we think about mapping landscapes and developing ways to visualize current reality so that people see problems in the same way, and so that it's easy to frame them in a way so that we can come up with solutions. So design has a unique ability to create understanding among multiple people and diverse people and people who don't come to it with the same natural understanding. Design is inventing and playing and prototyping and creating, and that's really one of the core contributions. Obviously, I said prototyping. And then there are traditional ways that design has been used. You know, we have always played a big role in business and enterprise. We've always been a great contributor to helping businesses grow. And so that's a part of what we do as well. And part of that is using design's ability to attract people and delight them and make things entertaining and funny and beautiful. And those are things that need to be introduced to this world of social innovation. Even though we're dealing with really serious things, we can't attract people to this cause. We can't attract people to think in a different way if we don't make it attractive to them. And then last, design has the ability to amplify ideas. We understand how to make things accessible and interesting at a mass level. We understand how to communicate to large numbers of people through some of the really sort of classic things we do, you know, exhibits and websites and things like that. So there's this really rich set of skills and stages that design contributes and we believe can be put to work for social innovation. And just an overview of the components that make up the program. SDA is one of the best art schools in the world. It's a really extraordinary environment. We live within a system of classes and people and faculty, much of which is available to our students. We have partnerships with other universities. We have a relationship with Babson College, with NYU, with Columbia University. We work on projects in a couple of different ways, both within classes and curriculum and outside of classes. We take on projects with organizations that we believe in. And we have particular areas of interest that we investigate just because we want to understand and we want to be a resource for other people who are working in these areas. And just a few of the current projects. This is one of our faculty is Asi Barak, who is co-president of Games for Change. He's been involved in many things, but currently one of the things he's doing is the game portion of this huge program in Half the Sky. M-Farm is an organization in Kenya that we have a relationship with and that a team of our students, including Sebastian, maybe he wants to come, took on as a project last semester. And M-Farm is looking to bring transparency and equity to the whole agricultural system in Kenya by using mobile technology to get information and integrate more players and into the system. I mentioned Jake Porway, who founded DataKind, the organization of data scientists. Jake is on our faculty at large, but he also was a client, and so some of our students are working to help Jake and his partners launch their business. Another project is for an organization co-founded by a man who actually was a colleague of Bucky Fuller. That they wrote a book called Naked Value, which is about the critical role that resources play in our lives and will continue to play in business. And they're starting an enterprise that is a resource for businesses to connect them with the kinds of radical transformations that leapfrog all of the incremental changes and that use phenomenally fewer resources to just sort of eliminate categories of toxins and other resource-consuming elements. Another one of our clients is an organization called Rework that is looking to create the next workforce of people who are prepared to help move companies towards sustainability. And then one of our most remarkable clients is an organization called Ecovative in Albany, and they have invented a way to replace toxic materials by growing them from mushrooms. So look them up; they're very exciting. But they've been part of our network and an inspiration to us from the beginning. And then our students did a really interesting project with L'Oreal. So we try to expose people to different situations, everything from a startup nonprofit in Africa to a huge global organization. So it's important that people be able to see all the places where social innovation is taking place so that they can make decisions about where they want to end up. Another one of our faculty, DK Holland, is actually launching her own initiative called Citizen We, and the mission is to help teach young people how to participate as citizens in democracy. In terms of what students will learn, We break it down into 3 big categories. I talked about the need to develop personal relationships, so issues of, who do you need to be, and how do you, so that is your source of strength, your source of creativity. Seeing is understanding how to see things in a different way, how to see systems instead of parts, how to develop wisdom, the instinct for acting in a way that's responsible. And then knowing, which is what are the tools and the methods that you need to do in order to effectively work in this. And the skills and method are intentionally last, because without having the attitudes that are necessary, without having the vision to see the implications of what we do, without having wisdom, the skills and the tools, the methods are actually as dangerous as they are useful. So we think those things are interlocked and inseparable. I mentioned the partners. We have opportunities for participation in programs. We just did a workshop in Seoul in partnership with IDAS University. We have a relationship with Hub Mexico in Oaxaca, Hub Oaxaca. We work closely with the Unreasonable Institute. So this is a physical place, but we try to connect students to these other organizations working around the world. And we look at all the places where social innovation is showing up. I've talked about corporations, but at a government level, it's showing up within communities, in cities, for entire countries, which is a part that we're talking about. Nonprofits and NGOs for sure. Working with entrepreneurs who are scientists, who are engineers, who are developing new products, and then as entrepreneurs, because there is absolutely no reason why designers can't launch their own ideas and enterprises. So there are lots of options for places to go. And that's the overview. I will say apply now. That's the line that Erin usually says. So, Erin, is there anything you want to add before we?
I think that as far as an overview of the program goes, this is really, really great. We have other webinars online at our site if you'd like to check out past ones. Some that go into very specific areas that our faculty focus on. So definitely check out our website. I've given a couple links to that. But right now we do have some questions that people had put in when they signed up.
So and I bet you're going to tell me what they are.
I am. I'm going to go right into it. So we have a few questions about, and one that I think you deal a lot with, which is how does design apply to cities? Specifically, there was someone asking about how, as cities are changing, what's the role of design within that?
There's 2 ways to answer that. There's lots and lots and lots of the traditional ways that design has always been used for cities, which is urban design, which is infrastructure, which is architecture, which is, cultural communications. So all of that is still going on. But the interesting thing now, and we're involved in a project with the city in upstate New York, but in the way that I've been talking about design as this way of aligning and integrating and helping people see, one of the things that's most exciting to me is that cities have identities, like people have identities, and like companies have identities. And it's a very rich area, without getting too complicated. One of the things that is an extraordinary lever for change, and almost an inevitable part of it, is to help people see their potential in a new way, in a bigger way. And that's always been the role of identity. But when you define someone's identity as not just growing or being wealthy or succeeding or collecting more tax dollars, but as a city that provides things for the community, things for all members of the community, different layers of justice, So to help a city redefine its identity, to include those things is the first step, and a really interesting first step. And then the other thing I mentioned, which is, you have, in any city, you have organizations that are working on education, on culture, on entrepreneurship, on job creation, on gentrification, and it goes on. And they're usually not aligned, right? So as designers, and this is another thing that we're actually involved in, as designers, we can look at all those pieces and we can help them see the commonalities and help them see the goals that they have, that they share, and develop a plan and integrate them in a process to work together in a way that they're not able to do on their own.
That's great. And so another question that we have is actually more specific to the students, which is...
Oh, good.
There you go. Yeah. How do you see this applying to your future? And then also, what are the skills you feel like you've learned while you're in the program?
Well,
in Spanish, please.
Yeah. I try. Hola. Well, I start in this department. At first, I don't know what should I do as a designer, graphic designer. And then as time goes by, I know that I find what I really want to change the world, the specific aspect or the field. And then I try to figure out, break the problem, break aspect by aspect, and then I try to talk with professors, try to talk with Cheryl to see if I can get some help or if I am on the right way. And I think the best thing that I learned so far is find my my desire, my field, and my ability, which I can change the world. And I think the next step that I can learn is how to apply those things into reality and how to enlarge the network that I can do the best.
So just because I love to hear it, will you say that in Mandarin?
Sorry.
Say that in Chinese.
Yeah, sure. 刚开始我来的时候，还不知道自己作为一个平面设计师能够做一些什么样的事情。后来呢，跟着那个课程的一步一步的进展，我发现我自己所在的这个世界能够找到自己想要改变的一个领域，然后根据老师的一些指导以及上课的一些经验，我就发现我能够用什么样子的工具和什么样子的语言来改变这样一个领域。然后在这样一个阶段，我会跟不同的老师进行交流，然后去发现我想做的这个事情的可能性，以及我是否处在一个比较平衡的状态。我想接下来我要做的事情可能是去更大的去扩展自己的交流圈，然后跟不同的人发生联系，再去看是下一步应该怎么做。
Love it. I love it.
Thank you.
So another question that we have that I actually think is really great for Sebastian is we have someone asking about the role of design and development work. And Sebastian has been working previously with Colombia in eradicating extreme poverty. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how you see the role of design in that work.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was working in the government, and actually that's one of my goals and that's what I'm trying to develop from this program is how can I apply all this knowledge in building new dynamics on the way the government relates with the communities and on the way they create new ways of participating to have like integral impact. And I mean,
You want to do it in Spanish? Do it in Spanish.
Yeah, well, yeah. Estoy tratando de encontrar la manera en la cual el diseño, encontrar el lugar en el cual el diseño puede jugar dentro de las dinámicas crear nuevas maneras de participación y comunicación entre el gobierno y las comunidades.
So he's really working on the interaction, if I can understand what you're saying
Yeah.
correctly,
Yeah.
between what is the dynamic, and how do you design the dynamic between how government, private sector, and NGOs work together to solve a lot of the problems that are endemic to poverty and
to make it, and to make it in a sustainable way.
Yeah, and relevant to what we were saying earlier, in particular, how do we help these organizations work together, helping them establish common metrics and methods, and how do we create a system of communication that allows them all to share best practices, to share progress. I mean, these things are huge because it's a perfect example of what I was saying, but without that, you continue to have government in one sector and private sector in another silo, and then all the little grassroots things, and it never adds up to anything. And what's really exciting is that we as designers have the ability and the opportunity to make it add up to something that is so much more effective and so much greater than the sum of its parts.
And I must say that one of the greatest things that I've realized here is I understand one new way to there's a new way to understand communication since I've been involved in this program, and it's
And that's probably we have a couple questions that people have submitted that have to do with what kind of skills do you learn while you're in the program. Cheryl teaches a class on communication design. You'll learn about the fundamentals of design and where the history of where the whole movement comes from. Ethnography, design research, mapping and data visualization, modeling. What else am I missing, guys? There's a lot. It's a 2-year course.
Multimedia storytelling, game design.
Designing change. So it's definitely worth looking at the curriculum, and there you can see sort of what's been laid out as far as skills that you'll learn while you're in the program.
I think the most thing that I feel like is the ethic is the way you look at the world and the way you see through the things. Sometimes it's just like the first class that we talked about our background, especially how did you learn from your parents. I think that's really inspiring because usually I just see the things on the very surface aspects, and when you look into the problem, you will thought, wow, it's a great new world, and there are a lot of things that you need to learn, and you need to understand and be patient with that.
That's great. So we have. I think that's honestly. I think that's most of the questions. Oh, we have one more question, which is, what is the potential for open data and linked data to benefit the field of design and social innovation?
Well, I don't know that I'm the right person to answer that in a deep way, but I can say that there's a reason we have adopted DataKind. There's a reason why we are, Alexis Lloyd is on our faculty and Jake's on our faculty, and that is that we think there is currently a huge and in the future an even greater opportunity for designers and data scientists to collaborate in lots of different ways. And some of the obvious ones are in making data understandable, to helping people transform it from lots of bits to concepts and helping them figure out how to act on it. But further than that, I think in the process of design there's a really important opportunity to do one of the things that we also do, which is get to the right questions to ask, which is one of the first critical steps, right? That often gets ignored, right? But the questions that people go in with are often not the right questions to ask when you look at something at a systemic level. And so data is a huge tool for that, and design, I think, can be a big contributor to the usefulness of data because of that.
Great. And in our last webinar that we did, we actually had